everyone, and welcome to Between Two Studs. I'm Alex Stud.
And I'm Ron Stud.
Ron, episode 17. Here we are.
Wow, we made it.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, but I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You got to bring our A game.
Okay.
I don't know about you, Ron. For me, there are two professions that if I were to meet someone in one of those two professions, I feel like I got to bring my A game. Like I feel like, not that I'm being judged, but that I feel like I got to impress them. There's two professions. One, anyone who's in psychology, a psychologist, which we already interviewed one of them.
Right.
The other, recruiter. And guess what? We have a recruiter on tonight. So I'm just saying, got to bring your A game. Tonight, we're bringing on Ed Sesay. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Welcome, Ed. Nice to have you on.
Yeah. It's definitely great to be here. I was looking forward to this, and Alex and I are former coworkers, and I was definitely interested in hearing a little bit more. I've followed the IG page or the Instagram page, that is, and definitely excited to be on an episode.
No, well, I think this is going to be a really fun episode because I think especially with what's happened over the past year, recruiting has become it's a very tough job. And I think that what's kind of interesting is for all of us, it's like there's almost a ton of kind of like superstitions about, okay, well, when you apply, here's what not to do. Here's what you should do. And, there's all of these things where you're like, well, there's algorithms out there that are just going to send this into the trash bin. So it's going to be interesting to talk to you and hear a little bit about how all of that really works.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And being now in the industry for almost about 7 years now, there are definitely some quirks and some items that, we sort of look for out of, potential candidates that might be a fit, but, definitely looking forward to diving a little bit further into it and talking a little bit more about the trade.
Absolutely. And before we do that, though, we have what was called the fire round. Mm-hmm. Now we call it the ember round.
All right.
So these are questions we ask every one of our guests. Want to get to know you a little bit better. You kind of mentioned it earlier, but how do you know us?
Yeah, so I know Alex. I am currently the talent acquisition lead at Dialogue Tech, and Alex joined us about a year and a half ago. He's no longer with the organization, but Alex and I became pretty close, and just met Ron. But Ron and Alex look. You two look exactly identical.
Spitting images, right?
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And Alex, I always tell you this, but you're definitely a character. You're the life of the party at DT, and that's it was an absolute no-brainer to hire you. At that point, so it was definitely a pleasure having you aboard.
Well, appreciate the kind words. Tell us a little bit about you. What are your interests? What are your hobbies?
Yeah. So outside of work, I'm originally from Glenview, Illinois, which is a local suburb here in Chicago. Big Chicago sports fan, diehard Cubs fan, really, really big into football, more specifically college football as well. I live here in Lakeview, actually about 2 blocks east of Wrigley Field as well. In my spare time, kind of hanging out with family and friends. I also have an awesome dog named Otto as well too. But other than that, just enjoying the life, living in the best city in the world, in my opinion.
We ask all of our guests one of our favorite questions to ask: what are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, so currently I am drinking this bourbon whiskey from Driftless Glen, and it's from a distillery handcrafted in Baraboo, Wisconsin, and it was a present given to me from my fiance's brother over our engagement party. So typically either drink it just dry, just neat, or just on the rocks with one big ice cube. But this is typically my go-to if I'm ever drinking like whiskey or anything like that.
Very nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and Ron and I, we're going to share what we drank too, what we're drinking. But I will say, you're our second guest based in Chicago.
Okay.
And I have to say, just like we did for the first shot with Lori, for the first interview with Lori, we are going to take a shot of Malort for you.
Yes,
cool.
On your behalf.
Cheers.
Let's do it. Cheers.
Oh, delicious every time.
It's
Ron,
better.
I know. It gets better every single time. The more you drink it, the more of the complexity that you start to take that you get to enjoy. But we're going to talk about it a little bit later when we
We
talk
are.
about
We are.
when we talk about Chicago culture, which is something
Sure.
very important. And as someone who's been living here almost 2 years now, that I find really important. But before we do that, Ron, what are you drinking tonight?
Tonight I'm drinking Evan Williams Single Barrel Vintage. I'm having it on the rocks. Just haven't even tried it yet, so here's to trying a little sip of it and see what I get.
Have you not had this before?
You know what? I've had it before. Ooh, very, very smooth. Got some caramel, some vanilla, a little bit of honey in there. Loving it. So, and Alex, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, it's funny, Ron. I've noticed in every episode we've had up until now, we've only ever had a straight drink. We've had a straight Scotch, straight bourbon. And I realized, one of my favorite drinks, it's a very easy drink, and it's in honor of our father, a rusty nail. And a
There
lot
you
of
go.
people don't know what a rusty nail is. Ed, do you know what a
I
rusty
do
nail
not.
is?
I don't.
Rusty nail is half Drambuie, half Scotch. And usually when I tell people that, the next question is, what is Drambuie?
It's cranberry.
And Drambuie is as best as I can understand it, and Ron, let me know.
Okay.
It's a honey infused Scotch. So it's like it has very much an element of a Scotch, but it's very much
Much
very
sweeter.
very sweet because it has the honey.
I want
And
to
what
say
I
that there's some herbal stuff with it as well, but I mean it's not super heavy. So Malort definitely is very, very herbal. With Drambuie, I want to say there's some other things with it that give it a little bit of herbal infusion as well. But yeah, it complements very nicely with Scotch.
well, what I was going to say is when I was a few years younger, I hated the taste of Scotch, and I could never figure out why. And it's because of the peatiness, which I didn't know what that meant. It basically means the smokiness. And what I found was I could really enjoy Scotch if I have it with Drambuie, if I have it as a rusty nail, because that smokiness is kind of counteracted by the sweetness of the
Yeah, it picks it
Drambuie.
up.
And
Mhm.
then over time, I was actually able to slowly turn the Drambuie down a little bit. And so obviously this isn't like a true rusty nail, but I'll usually have it more heavily towards the Scotch now. But I do enjoy a little bit of the Drambuie. So I sort of use Drambuie as sort of my introduction in getting into and enjoying Scotches. So
Very cool. And what kind of Scotch are you drinking? I don't know if you already mentioned that.
I didn't. This is nothing special. Usually when I'm mixing the two, I'll usually go with a lower end Scotch. This is just a Dewar's
Mhm.
White. But, a Scotch that I recommend that I only had about a year ago for the first time, and I really enjoy it when I'm having it straight or neat, is Monkey Shoulder. Have you had Monkey Shoulder?
No, I haven't. I don't think I've even heard of it.
It's
Monkey
really
shoulder.
good. I don't have much more to say about it. But Ron, it sounds like you're familiar with it.
Yes, I've had it before. Very, very delicious, and
Yeah.
can't go wrong with it, honestly.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's very moderately priced, right? It's
Yeah.
not you're not paying $100 for a bottle. It's hard for me to make
Cool.
that justification. So,
For sure, definitely.
Ed, this is always a question we ask every one of our guests, and we've gotten some incredible responses. No
Mhm.
pressure, but
Mhm.
pick a piece of art. It can be anything, right? It doesn't have to be literally a Picasso. It can
Yeah.
be music, can be a film. Pick anything that speaks to you or represents you in somehow, and tell us about it.
Interesting. I would probably say so. I have this map of the city limits of Chicago and some of the surrounding suburbs. It's actually a pretty well known map of Chicago that also illustrates the train lines, so the L lines as well too. And it's like a yellow map, and it just has it basically cuts off from the start of Lake Michigan and then like onward west, north, and south as well too. But I would say that represents me because obviously my love for Chicago. It's the best city in the world, in my opinion, and I also love geography. I just love looking at maps, and I'm just very much so focused on just geographical sort of images, whether it be different pictures, which I'm also really big into in like photography. I'm not like a photographer myself, but I love looking at pictures. And then just like the different parts of Chicago and like how to get there, what part of Chicago is closest to another part of Chicago, and all the different neighborhoods as well too. So I'd probably say that.
I love that response, and I
Yeah.
have to say, for me, and I'm curious Ron's take, but as a guy who's been living here not quite 2 years, and I don't feel that I've earned the ability to refer to myself as a Chicagoan. I have tremendous respect for that, for that,
Mm-hmm.
and so it'll take many, many, many years for me to earn that right. But I will say this: I've never known a city where the people are as proud as they are to be from Chicago.
Yeah.
Buffalo kind of rivals it a little bit, but Buffalo's so much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, it's like it's this city that is kind of in the middle of nowhere. No offense, like it's kind of like you have Chicago, and then it's like, well, what else is in the Midwest, right? You have maybe St. Louis, and it is an incredible city that has so much history, and yet at the same time, it's funny, when I first moved here and before I lived here, you always hear the second city, right? Second city. And I always thought that was kind of derogatory. Like I was kind of like, well, like what? It's not as good as New York. But I think people in Chicago like take pride in that. It's like, yeah, we're not New York. We're better than New York, but like we don't care that we're a little under the radar. Like that's okay with us.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's just like kind of like a Midwest nice kind of thing. I think, most big cities in the Midwest, they have a lot of prideful people that come from Cleveland or Indy, and basically anywhere in Wisconsin as well too. But everyone typically is really prideful for, where they come from, and they love talking about how great that their city is. But in comparison to New York, we're obviously smaller. We're a lot cleaner. We're a lot cheaper, and in my opinion, it's just a lot better city. It's easier to move around. It's easier to get around. But New York is awesome as well too. So,
well, you know what I tell people, Ed, when I go back to the East Coast, people who've never visited me, have never been to Chicago. When I tell them what Chicago's like, I always say, take the cleanliness of Boston, which Boston's a very clean city, but
really?
take this. Oh yeah. But take the size of it's bigger than Philadelphia. It's not New York, but it's a very large city, and combine the two, but the cost of living is low, relatively speaking, to those East Coast cities. And that is Chicago. And I think it's great. It's kind of got the best of both worlds. It's got the cleanliness of like a Boston, but it's got the size of not quite a New York, but definitely a Philadelphia.
For sure.
So for me, I'll admit I've driven by Chicago, but I've never stopped into Chicago. But
you've never visited your brother?
I haven't. I will at some point. As a complete outsider to this conversation, I think one of the interesting things about Chicago specifically, at least from my vantage point, is I think Chicago stands out for a lot of different reasons compared to other cities, right? So you listed a bunch of other larger Midwestern cities. But here's the kind of things that stand out in my mind, right? Your elevated trains, right? Definitely stand out. Those are iconic, right?
Yeah.
Number two, the river cutting through the city, right? All those bridges back and forth across the city. And like you said, the cleanliness. But the big number three, the architecture, right? It is not like a lot of the other cities that you mentioned where it stands on its own compared to New York, I think, when it comes to skyscrapers.
Oh, I think it exceeds New York. Not in terms of height,
right,
but in terms of elegance. And the biggest thing you have to remember about that, Ron, is between 1871, which is when the city of Chicago burned to the ground, 1/3 of it did, I should say, and 1900, it was the fastest growing city on the planet. More people were flooding to Chicago than anywhere on the planet. And so when you think about that, you go, well, when was probably the glory days of American architecture? It was probably during that time period, right? In terms of really beautiful, not ugly monstrosity concrete structures. We're talking about elegance.
A bit of that Art Deco, a little bit of just what really I think separates, okay, this is built for utilitarian reasons. This was built to be beautiful and to be appreciated.
And if you ever read The Devil in the White City, which is a fantastic book, That was all about what was going on in Chicago in the early 1890s. That's a big discussion where they talk about this big divide between, well, when you look at a building, especially like an office building, is the value on what matters on the inside, or is what really matters is the culmination of what matters on the inside and the outside and how it reflects the rest of the neighborhood? And that's a huge divide, right? This isn't just like, well, it's an office building. It's like, no. This is about how it will have an impact and reflect the rest of the neighborhood that's around it.
Yeah, so I was actually going to say, even aside from, just the overall architecture downtown, so it also seems like every neighborhood has like their, specific kind of building or, type of three flat apartment building that sort of stands out. Like Wicker Park has, this very unique sort of sense to how they, have built their architecture and how all of their apartment buildings look. And the neighborhood also looks like Wicker Park. And then, you hop into, let's just say Lakeview, for example, where it's a little bit different. And then, Logan, Lincoln Park also has its own, specific look to it. So does Old Town. So that in itself is very interesting. I don't know necessarily if any other city has, different neighborhoods that, have a specific look to them. Just based on the architecture of apartment buildings or storefronts, whatever that it might be. So that's, in my opinion, another really cool and unique part about Chicago. But I just think that it's awesome.
Well, Ed, congratulations! You passed the Ember round.
There we go.
We're gonna want to get now. You're on fire. It's absolutely right. We're going to transition a little bit more into a little bit more career focused. Very curious to talk about your day to day, because for me, when I first met you and you talked to me about how you graduated from Monmouth College, business administration degree, and that was out in rural Illinois, and you're from the city, and you moved back to the city. But what got you into recruiting?
Yeah, so it was actually very unique. So my senior year, second semester, there was a friend of mine who had previously graduated. He was 2 years older than me, but he worked at this really small recruiting agency that was in the suburbs, and it was pretty close to Glenview as well too. So I could graduate, then live with my mom. And he was like, "Hey Ed, I work at this recruiting company," and I'm thinking like we're at a baseball game. A few beers deep on a Saturday, second semester, senior year of college. And, I'm thinking like, what, I don't even know what recruiting is, like recruiting what? And he's like, it's called technical recruiting, jobs for professionals within the technology and IT space. And I'm like, I don't even really know anything about technology, to be completely honest with you. And he's like, trust me, there's obviously a large learning curve to it, but a lot of it is just really personality based. So, you love interacting with people, you have a great personality, and also you love helping people as well. Like, I just think that you would be a great fit for this. So he was like, you should come down and interview in 2 weeks. I can send, my manager your resume, and it's basically all she wrote. I interviewed there, got the job, and then I started. And the first thing that they had sort of taught me was, if you don't know anything about the space, just get on the phone and start talking to people. Because everyone, and this is specifically candidates, but just humans in general, love talking about themselves and love just generally giving someone else a story of their background, just to be able to sort of talk about yourself and learn other new and exciting things as well. So I spent about my first few months just talking to different people, talking to different software engineers, learning about what they did, like just learning about different environments and learning about different technology skill sets, whatever that it might be. And I loved it. It was awesome. And it was like, for me, it was just like the light had really just went on when I initially got my first placement, which is, you source someone, you recruit someone, and then you're able to then find an opportunity for them to advance in their career. So that to me was just like, was like my adrenaline every single day. Like I want to be able to help someone else in their career to advance themselves in their lives as well too. And you also hear some of these really cool like personal stories of candidates that were either laid off in their previous job, and now that they need to land another job to financially take care of their family and everything like that. And there have been just a lot of great success stories, and just doing that just really really caught my interest and what really got me into the space. And now I'm here at a small company and as a sole recruiter as well. But it's just great just overall to help people and to also help people advance in their lives.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I know that for most people, recruiting is really a complete mystery. Like I mentioned early on, there's a lot of kind of urban legends about like, you do this and nobody will look at it. You don't do this, nobody will look at it. And even the process of, like you said, talking to a potential candidate, getting them to apply and go through all of that, it's a bit of a mystery. Can you kind of walk us through that process and really kind of from finding out to the open head count, filling it? How does that all kind of progress?
For sure. So we won't go too deep into the differences between the two, but there are like two different types of recruiting. So it's agency versus corporate recruiting. So agency recruiting is more third party, where you're hired as an agency, as an executive search, whether it's contract or full time, to then conduct the talent acquisition or assist in the talent acquisition recruiting for another company. So you as a recruiter, you don't actually work at that company. Where versus
and that would be, just to be clear, that would be like a headhunter, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
do you? I don't know if you've specifically been a headhunter, but is that how do you feel about that word? Is that offensive?
So I think that in general, recruiting has somewhat of a bad stigma to it, just because it is a sales job, and like there are a lot of professionals that try their hand in it, but there are just a lot of different things that sort of differentiate the good recruiters versus the bad recruiters. And there are a lot more bad recruiters than there are good recruiters, which probably leads to the stigma. I'm just going to be completely honest. But
I'm shocked. I'm completely shocked. That'll be the case. I want to say maybe a month ago, somebody reached out to me about VBA coding that I did, I think 12 years ago. I have not touched that stuff since. But somebody's like, hey, I got a VBA job for you. And I'm like, no.
That's just not something. Yeah. That's that wasn't a past professional career that I had. Yeah. But exactly. That's like the perfect example of, unfortunately, there are some, recruiters that just throw out these insane messages to, reach a broad range of, different candidates just to see exactly what sticks. And, that's unfortunately that it kind of taints the whole name of talent acquisition and recruiting in that sense. But, if you do get a really good recruiter, and you can always tell by a good recruiter just by, just the overall speed, them wanting to actually get to know you as a person, because essentially recruiting is all about people evaluation, and there are two different sides to it. So we are recruiting you, and you should also be recruiting us just as equally. So, and it should always be that. And just because you are not necessarily a fit as a professional for one specific job does not mean that you're a bad software engineer or you're a bad DBA. It just means that our specific environment just does not it's not technically the right fit for what you're looking for or what your interests are. So it's all about the balance, and also being able to realize like, hey, this is this professional's this is this candidate's pain point, this is what they're looking for, this is what we can offer them, let's see if this can work. So you kind of take it by baby steps, but it's always about evaluating the other individual and evaluating yourself as well. So it is really interesting.
Well, and I kind of want to dig deeper into that, Ed. You talked about it earlier, how you are the sole recruiter for your current company. So you must, by definition, have a huge impact on the culture I mean, at the end of the day, you are the one who are helping navigate who's coming into those doors and who is being specifically interviewed for those positions. And I know, having worked with you, diversity is really important to you, as it should be.
Definitely.
But you don't, at the end of the day, make final decisions in the hiring process. So how do you ensure that an office becomes more diverse? How do you make sure that it becomes culturally strong? It's not just about finding necessarily the best talent at the job. It's about making sure they fit in well with the company at large.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there also is another component to recruiting outside of, just fielding in applications from candidates that are interested in a job post. You, as a recruiter, and great recruiters also look and field, potential candidates that they feel are a fit for, any specific role as well too. So my outreach to, to candidates, if, we're looking for an individual and we're open to an individual with a non-traditional background, which is, typically without a bachelor's degree, someone that, has come from a software engineering boot camp or whatever that it might be. I'm also looking for a specific skill set that I know the team is capable of growing as well too, and I can then champion that message to that proactive candidate now that I'm reaching out to them and say, hey, this is something that you've had experience doing before in the past. This is also what we can offer. Let's have a conversation and just basically take it from there.
That's a really great response. And I think, I've worked with some great technical recruiters as well. And I'm 100% in agreement with you on that assessment. And it's kind of weird because it reminds me of a lot of, Alex and I've talked a bit about sports. Before we started, we were talking about sports. And it's interesting how, sometimes, you just need that all-star player. On the other hand, what's interesting too, though, is when you can talk to people and kind of say, hey, this person has there's a lot of potential. This is a place that will work well for them, and you'll build that culture in a positive way. And I think especially your comment about maybe coming to looking for candidates from a non-traditional background. It's amazing how many people I've worked with that are technically amazingly gifted, just don't have that traditional background. And I think part of it is it's like they know how to MacGyver the heck out of things. It's amazing. So great.
No. Exactly. And I would say that, some of our best and some of our most technical software engineers, they, were, people and professionals that came from non-traditional backgrounds. So they have no undergrad, they have no bachelor's in anything, or they have a bachelor's in psychology, they have a bachelor's in business, and, they somehow found their way in getting interested into software development or anything within something else that's not even, that doesn't even connect to what they studied in college. And, they then invested in their background, they invested in their career, and then they were able to, learn certain things and also, sort of adapt exactly how they conduct their everyday sort of life as well too at work, just by having some of those experiences that a computer science major probably hasn't had that sort of opportunity before in the past as well. So it is really interesting. We want to normalize making non-traditional cadets that come from a non-traditional background more frequent.
But that's a challenge because at the end of the day, although it makes perfect sense to say, let's bring in people with different backgrounds and perspectives, because at the end of the day, when you're all looking at a singular problem, you're going to be able to look at it from different perspectives. We also recognize that humans are biased towards people who are like them.
Definitely. For sure.
So I imagine that has to be a challenge. At the end of the day, you might bring two candidates together, and one is cookie cutter definition of what the role should be. And here's someone who you look at the impact to the business at large, and you can say, this is the right person for us.
Yeah.
But you might not always win that battle. I assume you might lose that battle more often than not.
For sure. Definitely. Yeah. And, I do have somewhat of an impact when it comes to hiring decisions and, making sure that we're also making the right decision as well. But, as a recruiter, you do have, the opportunity to, sort of sell yourself or sell, that candidate that you feel very strongly as far as them being a fit. Because generally, as a recruiter, you are the first person that's speaking to this candidate. You're coordinating different steps within the interview process with the candidate as well too. So within that communication, you're always sort of getting more comfortable with that person's background and also their potential fit as well too. And then also, if a candidate's not basically a fit for that position, then you also have some of that. You have more experience and more opportunities to connect with candidates than a hiring manager might, or any one specific interviewer that might just meet with one candidate one time. So being basically that candidate's advocate can sort of sway some of the decisions at points, but it is very interesting to sort of think about. And it is awesome just to also see that you have the ability to earn the trust of the hiring managers or all the other members of the team. So they say, Ed's really adamant in this candidate over the other one. Let's actually start to have more of a deeper discussion about why this actually might be, and basically try to uncover something that we all never necessarily thought that we aligned on. So it is very, very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad you dove into that, because even when I look at myself and forget about all the other variables that exist,
Mm-hmm.
but if I'm looking strictly at personality,
Mm-hmm.
I know me as a natural extrovert, I'm going to be more biased towards other extroverts. But in many ways, an introvert might be more beneficial if I was hiring somebody, because they can help balance me out and look at things in a perspective that I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a challenge, right? Like my natural biases,
Mm-hmm.
even from a personality standpoint, let alone all the other ways that people can be a minority or different than my own self. And so, but trying to find the best candidate, not just based on my personal biases,
Mm-hmm.
but based on who's going to benefit and culturally benefit from the entire organization at large.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you want to pick someone generally that you will enjoy working with, right? Like there is a very big component to, and it doesn't even have to be a technical position, but you want to be able to collaborate with someone at a very high level and have a beer with them, outside of work, or just be able to talk with them about things that are not even related to work as well too. So, trying to get some of those biases out of your evaluation, it is very hard, but we do different things to sort of structure the interview process in a way where we can sort of eliminate all of interview biases that you might see with any questions that might be asked during an interview.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that information. We're going to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to continue talking with Ed. Some of the traditional do's and do nots. Are they legitimate? Are they real? And then we're going to get into a little bit more personal with Ed as it relates to his fandom, with the Bears, with the Cubs,
Yeah.
and his love of Chicago. We'll be right back.
What's up, guys? This is Ruben. You may remember me as being the first ever guest on the Between Two Studs podcast. I'm here now to promote my podcast, Guys Who Cry. Me, along with my co-host Adam Cook, we talk about a wealth of topics ranging from crying, men crying, because it's something we all do, to, some lighter things. For example, our newest episode, Adam and I talked about our dating blunders and just weird date stories. So guys, if you would be so kind, head on over to Spotify, Anchor, Apple, iTunes, and hit that follow button. Talk to us. Our Instagram is at Guys Who Cry Official. That is Guys Who Cry Official. Check us out. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, we're back with Ed Sesay. Ed, quickly talk to us a little bit about what's been going on as a recruiter in light of COVID. I know it's been a really tough year, and right now, I mean, you're trying to interview people that and potentially hire people that you've never actually met in person. You've never met face to face. What's that like?
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting. I obviously never thought that we'd be in this situation, but it is important to have empathy. With different situations that are going on right now. Unfortunately, a lot of professionals that were laid off or either furloughed, and just different very unfortunate scenarios and situations. But the actual very interesting part about now not getting to meet with any of these candidates is now that I find myself spending more time with them over the phone, definitely like more email communication than I ever did before in the past. And then also just making sure that I'm coordinating conversations and other steps in the interview process with candidates over the phone as well too. So just take unfortunately, if we do have like a rejection and there's a candidate that doesn't necessarily fit what we're looking for, and we went through we actually went through a period of time within COVID. It's probably like probably July or like midsummer of last year, where some professionals just weren't getting there weren't any jobs that were open. Opportunities just like weren't out there, and it's very easy to be discouraged if you don't get a job offer. So what I wanted to do was just to add a little bit and shed a little bit of light into it. I gave every candidate a call and told them exactly why we made the decision and so on and so forth. So that has been very interesting, and we do want to add a personalized touch to it. But just as far as recruiting and bringing in talent without actually seeing them, we of course we use like Google Meet and Zoom and all that fun stuff to meet with these candidates. But me myself personally, I just take more time in talking with them over the phone in our introductory conversation.
And the beauty is these people interviewing, they don't have to worry about wearing dress pants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know, right?
I have to say, I for one love that. I've got a dress shirt that I'll like keep in my office, and I'll like put it on when it's like, oh, I need to talk to some people and be on video. And the second I'm done with that, it's like, all right, put that dress shirt over to the side. I'll use it the next meeting I'm on that requires that.
Right, back to wearing sweatpants.
That's right.
For sure.
For those that are actively looking for jobs, what are some of the simple things that you would suggest to really help stand out?
Definitely. I would say first off and foremost, if you are able to get into the door, and by getting in the door, just having a conversation either with a recruiter or someone else within the hiring team, always make sure that you are sending some sort of thank you message. As far as like an email goes, it doesn't have to be lengthy. It doesn't have to be anything special, but just to, sort of to tell that other person that you spoke with, you appreciate, their time, and also thank you so much for taking the time to also talk about the opportunity as well. I would say that is like probably my one and most important sort of thing that I would mention as well. There are a lot of people that typically ask me just about like resumes, how you should be formatting resumes, what about cover letters. If your job requires a high level of written ability, then yeah, I will be looking at your cover letter, and yes, I will be looking at your resume. But I really want to see exactly, what you can do based off of your skill set, and then also where you've done it before in the past as well too. So there are just a few interesting, sort of tidbits to add to that as well too. But I look at hundreds of resumes a day, so I'm really like I think that I've got some of the structure down as far as like looking at a resume that has a quick typo, or if you have something on your resume that wouldn't necessarily fit at our company, that I'm looking at that as well too. But I don't know if there are, like there's a stigma behind resumes that are longer than one page. I mean, my resume is longer than one page.
I was going to say,
it's 2
actually,
pages.
what's the protocol on that?
I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, especially if you are a professional with 5+ years of experience, like you want to be able to, you're not mashing it into one page. I don't want all of this content on one page, but I want to be able to look at your full illustration and a summary of what you've done before in the past. And typically, like, you can't really do that in 3 or 4 bullet points with one job. So I don't necessarily look at that, and I don't really care about how that's typically structured. I want to look at like the bulk and like the actual meat of what's on your resume versus like how long it is or like any other quirky thing like that.
Well, I have to say, I love your comment about the thank you because it
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of something I remember. A hiring manager, he flat out turned down a candidate because he did not give him a thank you note.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. He's like, yep, if you're not humble enough or gracious enough to send just a little note to say, hey, thank you, I appreciated your time to consider me, then
Mhm.
you're not worthy of my time. And I was like, well,
Exactly.
that's fair, I guess. So
Mhm.
teach their own. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great
exactly.
point.
Ed, I have one final question about the recruiting world, and then I want to talk about some other stuff. But I guess my question is, we live in a world now, especially in the tech space, where people don't stick around very long.
Mhm.
I myself am guilty of this at Dialogue Tech. I stayed less than a year and a half. How do you as a recruiter feel about, hey, you brought on some really great talent, you feel really good about them, and I'm not trying to build myself up, but let's think
Yeah.
of somebody else, right? Like
Mhm.
who are able to provide immediate contribution to their
Mhm.
organization, and then they leave. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that?
I guess I would say it definitely depends on the role. So, say for example, you can add immediate contribution to a company if you're a software engineer, but why is it that you left a year later? And we in the business we call it like job hoppers. They don't typically stay at a job for any longer than a few months, and then they're out looking for their next opportunity. And typically that's to they everyone else has their own reasons. It also can be just a contract position or whatever that it might be, but I don't necessarily think that that matters all too much. Now there are other professionals that are out there that have their own excuses, that have very unique circumstances. So you also have to look into that and also ask some of those questions to also just dive a little bit further into that. But just as far as like the length of tenure at certain places, if I'm seeing a consistent trend that you're staying at one job for 8 months, then I'm gonna want to ask what happened here. What were some of your reasons for leaving? And what were some of the differences that you experienced in your next job that sort of got you to leave? So all that stuff is very interesting. I know that before in the past, you would basically work at the same job for 5+ years, and like the 5 year mark is like basically early. Like that's like nothing. There are plenty of people out there that have been at the same company for years and for their entire career. But those sort of days are, I don't want to say that they're gone, but they're very few and far in between where you'll find someone else that actually stays at the same company. Just because, you want to also be able to challenge yourself and find a different opportunity that presents itself in a way where you will experience that upward mobility. So I think that it's fair for you to try out your way into another opportunity and see what else is out there for you.
Fair enough. I want to switch gears, Ed, because I know you played football in
Mhm.
college. Did you play tight end, right, or wide receiver?
Wide receiver. So I also played a little bit of tight end as well too. I like to sprinkle that in there from time to time, but it was mostly wide receiver.
I was gonna say you are one of the few people I've met who are taller than me. So you definitely
Yeah.
had the height, and I know you're a huge fan of the Chicago Bears. Tell
Mhm.
Ron and I, as strangers, what is going on with the Bears?
So, and I need to take a really deep breath before I go into this, but
When you hear folks say the Bears,
mhm.
is that offensive or is that endearing at this point? Because it's kind of like, I know for the Bills, everyone talks about, are you going to smash into a table? And it's like, well, it's kind of endearing because at this point, it's like,
Mhm.
well, it's who we are. How
Yeah.
do you as a Bears fan feel about that?
I personally don't mind. I already know that we are like low key kind of the laughing stock of the league. And we are, and it's not for the sense that, we're we're like the lovable losers or anything like that, or like we're notoriously a losing franchise, but we've just made bonehead decisions at the quarterback position for a very long
The
time.
third largest city in the country has Andy Dalton as your quarterback. I just want to talk about that. I want to hear about it. Ed, what is going on in your mind right now?
So first off, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I'm not surprised that we have Andy Dalton. I'm also a diehard Notre Dame fan as well too, and I've never been. I always joke around with all my friends about this, but I've never been a fan of a franchise or of a team that has had like a franchise or an elite level quarterback. So I don't know what it feels like, and I feel like the football gods are playing a joke on me, and it's just like, all right, we're going to give Ed these either really, really good teams or subpar teams, but he'll just never have a quarterback. And I love quarterback play.
I mean, even those, so those listening who are saying Chicago, at one point they must have had a good quarterback. No, never.
No,
even the 1985 Bears.
Never.
They had a really great defense. They won the Super Bowl. Their quarterback, I don't know anything about him other than he wore sunglasses at every opportunity.
Sorry, Jim McMahon is not. He was not a good quarterback. I mean, fun guy, great personality is what it sounds or looks like, but he was not a good quarterback. Looking at it, it's just incompetence from the front office, and that's what it's always been, and that's what it always will be. So we have people making decisions that don't exactly know the sort of impact that they're making on the city. We have very, very passionate fans, and it just sucks that a lot of these decisions are being made by people that don't necessarily know what they're doing. It sucks, but it is what it is. The only thing you can do is root for your team and hope for the best, or lightning in a bottle.
Speaking of quarterbacks, we got to talk about Mitch Trubisky, right? Especially now that he's the backup for the Bills this upcoming year. And I know you were talking a little bit about like what are the thoughts as a Bills fan? What are your thoughts about how that kind of happened? And was Trubisky underrated, or was it just it was a legitimate decision that made sense? And the Bills, they need a good backup. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think that the way that I look at football and the way that I look at offensive philosophy is you have to be a realist. You have to know what you have, and you have to know what you don't have. I'm going to be completely honest. Mr. Trubisky is not a good quarterback. I haven't met him personally, but he seems like he's a great guy. He's got a great personality. He's a great locker room guy as well too. But when it comes to X's and O's, if a guy can't execute at a high level and he doesn't have the offensive awareness that he needs to have, especially at the quarterback position, then you're not going to be successful in the NFL. And unfortunately, we picked a guy that didn't have that much experience to begin with, and we took a shot on a guy that could potentially have a very high ceiling, of course, but I do think he just needs a change of environment to see exactly what he can get out of his career. But if I definitely will say this, if there is one coach and one offensive coordinator right now in the NFL that can get the most out of him, it is Dable. So we'll see what happens, but also at the same time, I personally think that Jake Fromm could potentially vie for that backup spot in Buffalo. So,
well, it's funny that you mention all of that because I obviously follow what Bills fans think, and I'm on the Buffalo Bills subreddit, and I actually read something really interesting that said that exactly what you just said, which is if there's someone who can revive Trubisky, it's gonna be Dable, and Dable is almost certainly going to be a head coach in the NFL next year, almost certainly. And so there's a thought that, well, what if Trubisky signed a 1-year contract with the Bills? Dable is going to be with the Bills 1 more year. He gets a head coaching job somewhere, and he brings Trubisky with him. I mean, couldn't that potentially be if you're Trubisky and you're looking at a potential revitalization of your career? that would be your best bet ever. I mean, here's the deal. I know I'm not a Bears fan. I haven't watched all the games that you did, but he finished his career with the Bears with a passer rating of 87. He's not, on paper, and I know this isn't fair, but on paper, he's not garbage.
Sure. And I don't know which one it is other than, I don't know if it's passer rating or QB rating that has more of a lean and heavily weighted towards like your rushing stats. But I'm pretty sure it's QBR. But as far as like passer rating, we should probably look into what other defenses that Mitch played because, towards the second half of the season last year, we're playing against a lot of really bad defenses and just a lot of really bad teams. And I don't want to sit here and make excuses. I don't want to sound like I'm some sort of Mitch Trubisky hater. I'm just trying to be a realist here, and I'm telling you, unfortunately, he did show some really high competency when he played some of those undervalued or unfortunate teams. But the fact of the matter is that you don't play any of those teams in the playoffs. So when you do get in a playoff setting and in a highly competitive playoff setting, what are you going to do as a quarterback? You can't afford to throw ducks in the middle of the field. You can't afford to not know what defenses were presented to you basically like within a second's time. Like you have to be able to look at all of that information and make the right decision. And then also it's all about athletic talent, which I do believe that he does have, but from time to time he sort of shows a lot of bonehead decision making. So it is what it is. I wish him the best of luck, but I am very happy that he's not in Chicago. Now we just have to deal with Andy Dalton, so we'll see.
Good luck with that. And, I think it's kind of interesting looking at this past year. Yes, the GOAT, he definitely helped prove that it wasn't entirely his coach, right? That sometimes you can just bring an amazing quarterback in and be awesome. But I also look at Josh Allen, and he's a quarterback that everyone underrated.
Well, Ed, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, I remember you and I chatting after the Houston game, after the Bills lost in the playoffs to Houston, and you said, did you see when he tried to throw it to the tight end? And, I mean, come on. Like, he clearly doesn't know what is – like, he's doing crazy things.
No idea. Yeah. I mean, that is a perfect scenario and a perfect example of someone that's, like, so out of body in a situation like that, that's just like the situation is too big for them as a person or them.
But
as a player.
a year later, Josh Allen, what's your take?
So I will say this: it is absolutely incredible that Josh Allen was able to make this big of a transformation in 1 year, and I'm pretty sure, like I want to say the history of the NFL, just as far as his accuracy and then also his playmaking ability has always been there, but just accuracy in itself, that's been like, I mean, what a turnaround. We've never seen one quarterback make that big of a turnaround as far as their accuracy goes. And you were able to then supplement great play calling, his athletic ability, and then surround him with weapons. Surround him with a great group of core wide receivers that are some are like above average, and Stephon Diggs obviously is at an elite level, but you're able to surround him around talented individuals. So you're able to do that, and now it's, in my opinion, you're just going to need to look at what you can do on the defensive end to really make this team a core team and to actually make a big playoff run. But I thought you guys were going to do it this year. You had the key parts to do it, but just defensively, it like the tides kind of seem like they're turning. But I don't know.
Ed, what's it going to take to convert you? When are you going to just jump on board, become a diehard Buffalo Bills fan like Ron and I?
When are you going to jump?
We're close. Oh yeah, for sure. I will say we're close because I don't know how much longer I can take it. I really don't know how much longer I can take this decision making as it pertains to the quarterback position. I don't know how much longer I can take it. I really don't. If we do draft a quarterback, and if we do draft a quarterback high, we'll see what happens. But I have no faith in I have no faith in Ryan Pace. I have no faith in Matt Nagy, or just a little bit of faith in Matt Nagy. I think that a lot of it's not necessarily his fault, but still, I have no faith in Ryan Pace to make the right decision at the quarterback position. So we'll see what happens.
I think the important thing is, regardless of where your allegiances lie, just make sure it's somewhere along the Great Lakes. You good with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Great Lakes loyal.
Right.
Hey, so speaking of Chicago sports, because I know even if you were to jump ship with the Bears, you will never, ever in a million years jump ship with the Cubbies.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you are the only person I've ever met who there's 162 games a year, which, by the way, in my opinion, is way too many games.
Way too many.
Way too many games. I like baseball, not 162 games worth.
Yeah.
You will watch 162 games.
I'll probably watch closer to, let's just call it like 130, and then I'll listen to about 15 to 20, and then I'll catch like bits and pieces of the rest. But this has been this way like my entire life. I grew up off of Broadway and Wilson, on the north side, so really close to Wrigley. And we freaking stunk as a team growing up, and it was just the only thing that I knew. It was really the only thing that I knew. It was a close major sports team that was close to my apartment at the time, and now it's just grown to, thankfully, the Cubs have been great, and we got to experience a World Series in 2016, so that was awesome. But there were a lot of dog days in my early life before this. So I definitely do want to mention that. And I was sitting in college, watching a 65-70 win baseball team, on a Tuesday, and people are like, "What are you doing, man? Like why?" It's freaking September. Everyone else there's no one at these games, and I just love my team. That's it.
Tell me what it was like to finally see the winning of the World Series for the Cubbies.
Yeah.
After 100, was it 108 years?
It was, I think 108 sounds about right. Well, it was 2016. Last time we won was 1908. So yeah, close to it.
Wow.
So it all sort of changed at like a drop of a dime. 2015 comes around. We hire Joe Madden. We get John Lester. Obviously, Anthony Rizzo's already on the team. We have the pieces to make. Chris Bryant comes up from the minors in a very short stint, but we have the pieces to like really make an impactful sort of season one. And you go through that first season, and it's like, wow, we're winning. It's buzzing. We can tell that not that we're going to win a World Series this year, but at least like we're experiencing a very, very good team that could potentially make a run in the playoffs. And that playoffs was awesome. It was because previously in other playoffs or like other seasons and other playoff runs before in the past, we'd get swept by any random team in the NL. And it was just like, okay, like we weren't really that good of a team, but that one wild card game against Pittsburgh, and then we played the Cardinals in the divisional round as well too, and won that. And it was just like, this team is different. So that was like really impactful. And then being able to have that experience in the playoffs for those young players, and then moving on to 2016. I swear to God, 2016 in the playoffs seemed like it was a full year. Like it was a full year. There, like during the playoffs, there were times where you have games out west that start at 9 p.m. Central Time, and you're staying up until 12, 1 o'clock. I believe some games even went into 2 a.m. And it's just like you're sleeping. I even slept in my car during some lunch breaks, just because I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like I'm on 3 to 4 hours of sleep here. And, now we have to turn around and get ready for tonight's game. It was absolutely crazy. And actually, funny enough, Game 7, when Rajay Davis hit that 3-run shot, I was in a bar and the bar went dead silent, dead silent. And I was with a huge group of my friends, and then started the rain delay. So all my buddies were like, they were just down in the dumps, like, not this again. I can't believe it. Game 7, it just ended this way. We had the lead. I'm telling you, I had no doubt in my mind we were going to win that game. It was the most eerie. It was the most eerie feeling I've ever had in my life. It was. I was like, nope, I'm not leaving. We're gonna stay, and we're going to watch the end of the game here, and then we're gonna, go out to Addison, and we're gonna celebrate. I had no worries at all, no worries at all. And it was. I'm literally getting goosebumps right now talking about it. But it was a phenomenal experience. I really hope that you guys get an opportunity to experience like a Super Bowl win. And I think that you definitely will. You have the pieces to do it, but it's an unreal experience. It was awesome.
I gotta say, Ed, I remember that game 7.
Yeah.
And the reason I was rooting for the Cubs more than anything was because of Marv Levy. And that name might not mean anything to you, but Marv Levy was the coach of the Buffalo Bills during all 4 Super Bowls. And he's still alive. He's 95 years old or something like that.
And guess which city he resides in?
Well, he's from Chicago. He's a Chicago boy. And he's a die-hard Cubbies fan. And I wanted him to win for him. I wanted to watch it for him. But actually, can I say this?
Yeah.
I got super emotional after that game because I remember seeing photos of grown men in a chair, sitting down in that chair, like literally like a reclining chair, right? Like that they brought at a graveyard, and they were watching the game on the radio with their father.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got goosebumps. I'm not a Cubs fan. And in fact, since I moved to Chicago, if anything, even though I live on the north side, I've become more of a White Sox fan because that's the underdog. That's the new underdog team. But that's besides the point. I got choked up. I got choked up because I thought, oh my God, if the Buffalo Bills ever won the Super Bowl, that's what I would do. That's what I would go down to Earl Chisholm's graveyard. Yep. My grandfather, who's buried in a Buffalo Bills blanket and Buffalo Bills sweatshirt.
That's awesome.
And I'd want to have a beer right there,
listening to the game. Yeah,
right there, listening to that game. And I got choked up. I really mean it. I really did. Yeah. And I said, you know what? For all you Cubs fans, good for you. And I hope to have that same day someday in the future for Buffalo Bills fans.
And honestly, I think that you will, but I mean, that is just like an awesome sort of scenario to sort of be a part of. My dad he's not a big baseball fan or anything like that. And so I didn't necessarily have that sort of relationship with him. But I mean, I would want, whenever I do pass, for my children, for my friends to sort of have some of that same homage if, my Cubs or the Bears or Notre Dame or anything like that I'm very interested in makes it that far.
We've had a guest on here previously who talked about podcasting as a medium. It's kind of like a time capsule. It's almost how he portrayed it. What would your descendants be drinking at your grave with you? Would it be some Malort? Would it be some old style? Or what would you want them to be drinking in honor and memory of you?
That's a really good question. Now I know that I'm drinking some bourbon right now, but I love craft beer, and I'm a massive local craft beer drinker. Like I don't drink anything else other than craft beer that's from a local brewery. So I'd probably say anything from Maplewood or from Half Acre. Revolution's pretty good as well too, but typically I like to stay within Half Acre and Maplewood. They would probably, I would say right now. Now this obviously changes because just new beers come out, and also Mars Brewery is a really, really great brewery that's high on my list as well. But I would probably say they would be drinking And this is a really good question. I would probably say anything from Maplewood, but probably Charlatan.
There it
Yeah,
is.
which is
Ed.
great beer.
Ed's great grandchildren. Now you know. Now you know what to drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you know.
Yeah.
The record's been set.
Yeah.
Ed, this is an important question. Maybe not as important as that question, but you were born and grew up in Chicago. So set the record straight. Do people in Chicago actually like deep dish? What's the story with that?
First off, I will say that I've had a little bit of like a different upbringing. I wasn't totally born and raised in Chicago. I was born in Chicago. I left when I was probably about 6 or so, but my dad opened up a series of clothing stores and barbershops out on the north side. So I was, out in Uptown. So I was always in Uptown, over the weekends and everything like that growing up. Most of my time was spent, or I grew up necessarily in Glenview, Illinois. But now that I do live in Chicago, I would say, so about deep dish pizza, like I like deep dish. I do. I'm not shitting on it or anything like that. But I will say deep dish is definitely like more of a tourist type of pizza. Like,
Ed. Thank you.
We're very much so well known for for deep dish pizza, of course. But if the best type of Chicago pizza is tavern style pizza. And I will go down in my grave saying that. Now it's a very thin crust that is crunchy, easy to eat. I'm a pepperoni guy as well too, so I love some nice oven pep on my pizza, and it's just great. You can find it at your local bar. The deepest pizza, I mean, unless you want to take a nap after, you can't really eat it. It's more or less like a dessert versus having a meal. You can't have it that often.
I'm so thankful you set the record straight because my friends don't believe me. The only time my wife and I have deep dish pizza is when we have tourists in town. Yeah. We never have deep dish otherwise.
I can't tell you the last time I've had deep dish pizza. It's probably been well over a year. That's for sure. Yeah. But tavern style pizza is the best. I mean, I love it. And I think that if tourists were to just get over the fact that, it's the thing to do, you go to your Giordano's, which I think is trash. It's disgusting. I'm a Lou's guy. I love Lou's. I'll also go to like Paisano's. I'll go to, Vito's and Nick's is a great pizzeria out in the South Side. But, you get your deep dish pizza just to say that you had deep dish, you know what I'm saying? But like if you, outside of that, if you do have an opportunity to get another style pizza, or if you have, an opportunity to get your Italian beefs, your Chicago hot dogs, so on and so forth, you definitely should try a nice tavern style pizza from, your local dive bar. So.
All right. So Ed, I'm sitting here in front of me is a nice, wonderful bottle of Jeppson's Malort liqueur. I got to know, because Alex and I have talked about this, is this purely an initiation rite that you bestow upon tourists to say, hey, you want to come to Chicago? You want to hang with us? Time for you to have this. Or is this legitimately hey, I come home and I drink 2 bottles of this every night and feel wonderful. And it is the true epitome of being a Chicagoan.
Yeah.
Now, where does that lie?
So I'll tell you this. The first time that I had Malort, which was probably about, let's just call it 5 or 6 years ago, and I had never even heard of it. I thought it was a fucking joke. Like, I thought that it was like, more or less like a gag gift or like a gag, sort of activity that people partake in just as a joke. And I tried it and I was like, this is actually awful. But, then you sort of realize that people do it and people have it just because it's so bad. And I don't know exactly what the motto is, but I heard that Malort once had a motto that 1 in like 29 people enjoy drinking Malort. And it's just like, Like that is like the perfect description of like the shitty alcohol and drink that it is. But like there are some people that love it. They're ride or dies, and you two are prime examples of that. And I don't think and the fact that you two are brothers and you both like genuinely actually enjoy Malort is very, very unique. And I will say it's very rare, but I don't like Malort. I don't think any of my friends like it. Sorry about that. I can think of one friend that is like really, really big in Malort. And you know what? Also, I also find that if you are big in Malort, you're just like the diehard, like, you've got 4 or 5 bottles in your house of Malort. You have a bottle of Malort in your office drawer, sitting at your desk in your cube. It's like these people are diehards, but I respect it. But
Ed,
me personally, I don't get it.
Ed, so you and I and a bunch of this is post COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
You, me, and a bunch of other people all show up at a bar together, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all showing up, and the first person says, "Hey, 6 shots of Malort." Are you going to decline it?
I'm not. I'm not going to decline it. Like, you can't be that kind of person that's going to decline it. But like, it's a really bad drink. It's a really bad shot. Like, I mean, but I respect it. It's fine. It's like something that, you do as an overall group activity. Like, I would never take a Malort shot by myself. I want someone else right next to me to also suffer into this terrible, terrible pain of this drink like I'm doing as well too. So as long as that's happening, I'm fine with it, but I'll never ever deny it. It honestly tastes like gasoline, or like you're at a mechanic and you have water from like a mechanic drain or something like that. It's terrible. I don't know. But
Ed, if you had to guess, what percent? I mean, you said 1 in 29 earlier, but if you had to guess, what percentage of Chicagoans that drink it?
Drink it like you two do, or
enjoy it in some capacity.
4 or 5%.
That seems about right with a 1 in 29.
Yeah, right. Because Alex, you have several bottles, and so do you, Ron.
Oh yeah.
You two are like you. I could only see that the market for actual Malort buyers and drinkers they buy in bulk, and you're taking a lot of the quantity of what's actually available. There's no way like someone like me is walking into a liquor store and saying, I've never even thought about walking in a liquor store and even thinking about like purchasing Malort ever.
You know what, Ed? You make a valid point, because I've never bought a single bottle of Malort ever. Every time I've ever bought Malort, I'm usually buying somewhere between 6 and 12 bottles.
And it's like, because you don't want to have to go through the trouble of actually going to a liquor store again and being seen as that psychopath that is getting 1 bottle of Malort.
Well, I like it too, because Alex has described it to me. He said, when you go and you buy Malort, and when people see that you're buying like 6 bottles, 12 bottles, 24 bottles, they know that you're about to bring goodness unto the world.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right.
Ed, final question of the night, because I think this is an important one. When life returns to quasi-normal, what's the first thing in Chicago that you want to be able to do that you haven't been able to do in over a year?
Definitely going to a Cubs game. And then I love live concerts, whether it's at an outdoor venue or an indoor venue. I have an opportunity to be at a concert with other people around. That's just what I'm looking forward to. And at some point in time, we'll get the shot and get the chance to do that again. But those are probably 2 things that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, Ed, this has been a pleasure getting to meet you, and just pleasure to kind of hear a little bit about some of the fun that goes into being a Chicagoan. And it's been fun talking sports, been fun talking a little bit also about your career and in general. Thanks for coming on this
definitely.
show. It's been a pleasure. We're going to hopefully have you back soon in the future.
Definitely. And I've also enjoyed it as well. Hopefully some of the listeners take something from, any of the professional, advice that I gave from a recruiter standpoint. And then secondly, best of luck to you guys with this upcoming football season. And, hopefully Mitch turns out for you, because he sure as hell didn't for us.
Well, hopefully we don't need him, but it's good to have a backup
Yeah, that's true.
that hopefully can win us a game if we need it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Hopefully we can give Matt Barkley a call and, ask him to come back to Chicago.
Maybe Matt Barkley can be the starter of Chicago.
I wouldn't hate it. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.